I know we want to be there, and when we say no, it's not because we don't want to be there, but it's because there are some things that we do need to attend to, like personally speaking, right? And there's some people that have a hard time saying no, and unfortunately live with the consequences of dealing with, certain things in their personal life that a lot of times it kind of bleeds into your ministry life because
the having a guest or a person is really nice. Although sometimes they can be very nervous.
True.
And
Jittery.
sometimes, oh yeah, or they're like, I don't know really exactly what to say, but even a couple of words that they do, they put us to think.
Yeah.
I think that's what we try to do in this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So and in that case, he doesn't need much of an introduction because he'll probably tell us about himself a little bit during the conversation we're gonna be having. But this is my brother, my family member, my actual blood brother. Erick's my brother too, but he is not blood, except with the blood of Christ, of course. But he's true blood. He is 5 years younger than me. 5.5.
6.5.
6.5?
You're what? You're turning 26. I turned 19.
Oh yeah, it is 6.5. Wow.
You sure has your brother?
Look, bro, my brain cells are not working very well right now. I am stuffed.
It's all right.
We just ate so much food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've been in the ministry together. I guess you can say for a little while now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say close to about over 5 years by now.
About
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think so. But he helps us in the drums.
Yes.
I know that Eric got to meet him through that source, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And since then he's been helping us out in our services.
Yeah.
Which I think has been a true blessing for
Mm-hmm.
us. Not only because I believe he's a very solid and good drummer,
Mm-hmm.
but also because like it's difficult to find people to help us.
True.
And as my blood brother, I think I've always been able to entrust in him that he will always be there for me, and same thing for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? I will always be there for him if he ever need anything. But yeah. So if I don't know if you want to say anything, maybe your name at least.
My name is Nathan. Yeah, like Marvyn said, I'm his brother. He saw me when I was born. He carried me.
I'm not sure if I saw you when you were born, but I remember when you were born. Yes.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's been a long ride growing up with you, and I think growing up in the ministry together really helped me. He kind of like trained me
Okay.
and disciplined me, teaching me certain concepts that I'm very grateful of, like using a click or being able to stay motivated and stay locked in to keep doing what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you said, I'm very appreciative of his support, and like you said, I'm always there for him. He's there for me, especially in the ministry. I know it's definitely you definitely need people by your side to always keep going. And
No, 100%. And it's the topic of ministry is one that we in our circle discuss a lot, especially because we are very like inside of it. Like our whole world revolves around that to some extent. And it's something that we've been in for many years. We've been dealing with it for many years, maybe in different areas of our life, but ministry is something that's really followed us around. And as I've gotten to know both of you guys, I see that it's not, it's something that really encompasses our life in a big way.
Yeah.
And sometimes, unfortunately, the conversation that we refuse to have, or sometimes we just don't have for whatever reason, is a topic of being able to balance our personal lives and also our ministry and our life in ministry. And I think that's a super important point that we have to have conversations about, because in all the time, especially me from my perspective, growing up in church, I saw many examples of people that I feel could not balance those two things the right way, and it led to negative consequences in their lives because of that.
Yeah.
And there are some people that look at these things from the angle of, well, the ministry is God's work. You know, like we have to give it all, and we have to do, and they're not wrong, but you know, God also Himself rested. When we look at, first of all, we can go all the way to Genesis when we talk about the creation story and how God rested on the seventh day after He did what He had to do.
Yeah.
We can go all the way into Mark, in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6. You know, when we read the story about you know, Jesus feeding the thousands of people, you see that this is shortly after Jesus had sent His disciples out to ministry in Galilee, right? And so they come back, and Jesus is aware they did what they had to do. They went out there, they preached, they did what they had to do. And what was Jesus' response in that time? He said, "Come and rest." He knew that they needed that rest. He knew that they had worked, but they also needed the rest. And so if we see the example that Jesus is giving, then we have to stop ourselves and ask ourselves, are we truly resting when we need to? Are we taking the time that we need to away from ministry and attending to other important things in our life that we have to? And I think it's an interesting thing to kind of analyze. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't realize how can I say, how our lives have evolutionized through our ministry. Because of course you guys have been in it maybe as long as I have, you know. So I mean, Nate, for you, tell me a little bit maybe about how you got into ministry and what that's been like so far.
Well, yeah, so like I said, when I was around 13, 14, it was around that age of do I want to get baptized, do I not? At the church that I go to, you have to be baptized to be able to play. So I took the decision to baptize, and then during that time, Marvyn, he took me and two other youth people, and he trained us, right? And he helped us develop into what we are today, and that helped me get into it. He trained me. Once I got baptized, I started taking it into my own hands, and because of, again, what he teach me discipline, which helped me myself want to grow and learn to be better, right? Because like you said, it's God's work. For me, in my mindset has always been what I'm doing for God when I'm in the altar. I always want to give 100%, no matter what I'm going through or what's in my mind. I always want to give my best, because at the end of the day, it's not for me or for the people that I'm playing for, but it's for God.
Right.
So that helped me motivate myself into growing. And I'll watch other drummers, videos, covers, tutorials, and just soak in as much as I could. Because, you know, when you're young, you have all the time in the world. I was still in middle school, went to high school, besides school, church, but I had a lot of downtime. So I definitely took charge and took that time, took advantage of it to learn and grow myself. And yeah, I've been playing ever since. There has been times, obviously, where, you know, you get tired, get exhausted, but I think it's part of the road of serving God. It's definitely part of it, because you're going against yourself, against your own flesh. You're going against what the world wants you to do, and you're turning away from the world and saying, no, I want to do this for God, and you give everything you can for God. So, yeah.
So you've been playing drums for about 5 years now?
In
6?
church, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I started when I was a kid, like around 4.
Okay.
You know, just messing around with the sticks, but
yeah,
actually playing and ministering, around 14. So yeah, 5 years.
Yeah. Which is crazy, because I've been playing for like 20 years now, about 21 years.
Yeah.
And for anybody that watches our services and whatnot, this guy is an insane drummer. He's surpassed me already in a short amount of time, which is crazy. But you said, okay, 14, about 13, 14 ministry. Is that roughly the same for you?
I would like to say yes, because we come from the same, you know, origin of church. Before anything, we had to be baptized before we could even like think about playing. Let's put it that way. But something that, you know, we had previously spoken about is that we both had at young age already started, and I think what it comes to was that our family has, you know, there's moments where families say, oh, it's in our blood. So I like to say music has been in our family for generations at this point. And I think that was something that from a young age, even before we were baptized or anything, or even before we started playing at church, we had already started, like, you know, learning and taking that. My parents put me in piano classes when I was very young of age. I did not pay attention whatsoever. I will say that. So everything that I know from piano none of it was even
Came
learned
from the
there.
classes?
Yeah, absolutely not. I think the only thing that I took into mind or in consideration was being able to read, you know. music. That was the only thing that I think I could say, which helped me when I started playing saxophone, which is I think where my ministry actually started.
What in the world? You play saxophone?
Yeah, I played started in 6th grade. The my elementary school, because I was still not even in middle school. My elementary school had a band.
Okay.
And it's funny because I remember that starting there, the saxophone, it was like I love the saxophone. And I think that's where my ministry started like popping off, because I started learning and learning and learning again, learning just theory in general, learning about like what it really is to compose something, and it helped me into being able to actually start when I started in the ministry at church, and being able to be like I already have knowledge that I can use to not only benefit me but benefit the other people around me.
Yeah,
and I think I really loved saxophone, but I had to get braces. So that's what everything changed.
that affects it.
So the vibration
Okay.
of the wood that you have, because you use a reed. That's what it's called, a little reed. That vibration messes up with your teeth and it hurts when you have braces.
Okay.
So that is when, and now you know, where I picked up the bass. And this may sound a little weird, and I'm sorry if it sounds a little racist, but I had a black teacher.
Okay.
And he played for a Baptist church.
Okay.
And dude, when he gave me a videotape of him playing, and I fell in love with the bass. I fell in love with, like, man, this guy, I want to play like him. And for about a semester, maybe a little more, he was kind of guiding me in certain things with the bass. Like the knots with the bass, the do's with the bass. And I wish I had much more time with him, really. But it was really nice what I was able to teach. And that is where my wanting to be very soulful, I guess you could say, with the bass comes from.
Right.
And again, this is literally a line right when I started the ministry. So that's why when
like middle school, roughly.
Yeah, really middle school-ish.
Or high school.
Yeah, because it was 7th, 8th grade. By the time I got to 9th grade, I was in a whole complete different time in my life, and we'll talk about that soon. But that's where my origin kind of comes from too.
Okay, and it's crazy because you mentioned something that even as we were I was kind of meditating on the topic. I didn't even think about bringing up, but it's funny enough that you brought it up because, like you said, the music runs in your blood, right? Like being a musician runs in your blood, and the same way. I mean, you guys know my dad. My dad.
Yep.
He plays instruments. He plays guitar. He plays a little bit piano. He plays bass. And for me personally, that's something that really impacted me because for you guys, it here in our church, it's not the same like as where you guys were, where you didn't need to be baptized to start playing. So I really got the privilege to be able to jump into that. At a very early age. So I was kind of like you, about 4 or 5 years old. I'd mess around with the drums, whatever it was. But it was whenever I got here around the age of 7 that I actually got the opportunity to start playing in services.
Yeah.
But I think what really kind of stayed with me in my mind, which I say this as a positive, but also as a negative, and we can get into the details as to why. But I kind of got into that mentality of I got to be there every service. I got to be there an hour early before service starts. You got to be the first one in. You got to be the last one out. You got to, like, all that stuff. And why is that? Is because whenever we were in our old, not even in the building that across the street, we were in another building before that. And, I mean, it was just so bad that they would break in and steal our stuff. It was just wasn't safe. So we would have to take, like, a lot of times the instruments, the speakers, the monitors, all that good stuff home. So we would have to get to church early. And back then we had 4 services. We had Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And then on Sundays, we had 2 services, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And so because my dad was a musician and we didn't have that many musicians back then, it was, we had to go with my dad. We had to get there every service. We had to get there early. We had to unpack everything. We had to set up. And I grew up with that mentality. Yeah. And so because of that, once I started getting into ministry myself and playing and whatnot, that kind of ethic or worth ethic, it stayed with me a bit. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that personally that I think, But I do absolutely believe that it comes to a point where it can be sort of detrimental in a sense. And I don't know if you guys agree with me with that, but it can be because once back then it was a little different. We're talking about in the early 2000s, right? In the early 2000s, at least in our church, in our very small church, we didn't really have a work ethic of, oh, we have practices or weekly practices, or maybe we didn't have as many, let's say, what can I say, special services that we would have to attend to, or anything like that. But obviously, with time and glory to God that we've been growing, our worship ministry has been also evolving with all this time, where there is a lot of demand, and also we're kind of dipping our toes in different ministries, not just music. Because I know here we're relating a lot more growing up in music ministry, but we're touching other things as well. We're dipping ourselves in other things. But kind of getting all of that, it kind of takes you to a point where if you're not managing your life correctly, you're running a danger. So for me, my biggest thing was trying to manage, like you said, maybe school and ministry, jobs and ministry. Now, as I'm older now, family and ministry.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the biggest things for you guys that have kind of helped you balance those things, and or if you're able to? I mean, there are people that say, hey, you know what, I just can't. I have to give it all. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. So my thing, and it's funny because what you just talked about, I feel like that was an essential thing for me to learn how to better off um, time management and knowing, hey, right now this is a time for this, and then later it's like my time. Like, don't bother me, I guess you could say in that sense. And what I mean by that was, as you said, when a church evolves into something much greater than whatever they could have imagined to begin with, and you start having musicians that are like, I'm gonna put it like this, top notch, which of course I'm not that could be at any church. I'm not talking about our church specifically because I've been in many different churches. As you know, I'm at a young age, I started gigging out at different churches and got to meet a lot of other people. But the most essential thing to me was they were always telling you being on time was meaning being there early, because you had to be there. You had to be ready for practice at the time that they were asking you.
Right.
So if it was 6:30, you were there at 6:15, setting up your pedal board, setting up whatever you needed to, and by 6:30 you're ready to go. They're not waiting on you.
It was the whole, if you're on time,
Yeah,
you're late
yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it helped me because I saw how demanding these particular churches that were like much bigger than mine at that moment were were taking everything so seriously. And not only that, at the same time, those churches were paying me to play with them. So it felt like an actual responsibility. And now when I came to like my church, back to my church, I was like, just because they were paying me, yes, it was my responsibility, but it's the same thing when I came over here. The responsibilities come there, and I think we have to be well aware that we have responsibilities. But at the same time, coming from those responsibilities, we should understand that there is time for us to be able to do what we need to handle. And I think that was something that at a young age was very difficult to understand because we had services Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and two on Sunday. So our weekends were jam packed with services. And if we had special events, it was all weekend long. We had no time for anything else. We would wake up, basically head to church because we had practice in a couple of hours, and we wouldn't be home until 1, 2, 3 in the morning. So you were like you knew that weekend was like, don't even think about trying to do anything
Yeah.
because you were not gonna have time for it. But the good thing was that in other weeks you were able to take that time. I was able to be like, hey, I'm probably not gonna show up this Saturday because I have to do a couple of things. And being able to have a good relationship not only with your band but with your leaders is a really really good thing to have. And this is even just across not only a musician but in your ministry. Because for me, it's like, and this is something that I really like about where I'm at right now. I let you know, hey, bro, I'm not gonna be here. I don't know, 2 Sundays from now, and I know that you have my back, or vice versa. Sometimes you don't have people that you can depend on to do that, so you're pivoting everywhere, and you're trying to figure out like where exactly can I do. So having people in your corner that are gonna help you, knowing how to time management, and also being knowing that you have responsibilities and being responsible for them, I think were key components for me to be successful in the standpoint of my ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's and like everything, when God sees that you can do one, He'll give you two, and then if He knows you can juggle two, He'll give you three, and so on and so forth. And everything comes with their blessings. That's the amazing part, because now, like you said, we're not only part of the music ministry, we're we're at something completely different. That at least I put it like this: I didn't expect to ever make it to something like this until I actually made it to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I think we always have to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it was always when I was a kid. My parents, God bless them. I mean, they put a really big example for me. Like my dad back then, he was a worship leader, and I would just see how he functioned. I mean, be there early, 2 hours, not even an hour. He'll be there 2 hours early. Um, Even like fastings, we'll be there the whole time. We do vigilias, was what we call them. Be there the whole time. Like it was just putting an example that not so much that church is life, but church is very important. You know,
Mm-hmm.
church is always number one. God is number one. That's what he grew me up in, that teaching, that God was always number one, and balancing that with life. Even till today, I mean, I give church so much importance that, like, just going out on a with my family, I always think, is there gonna be people to play at church?
Yeah.
Is there gonna be someone to have my back at church? Right? It's just it is. I got that in my mind so much that it's been like that forever for me. It's always been churches first, then work, school, whatever is afterwards. Um, I know it's probably a boring answer, but that's just how, I don't know. That's how I've functioned my whole life so far. It's just been church is always where I want to be. If there's a service, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, you know, the work ethic of you wanted to be there to play every service. You wanted to be there. It's just, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just, you know, you give something so much importance that you put that as your priority.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something my dad always teach me, to prioritize God over anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, God is the one that takes care of us. He's the one that, you know, covers us in our blanket at night.
Yeah.
He's the one that feeds us. He's the one that takes us from point A to point B. You know, he's the one that protects us. And I've always given God that importance and that respect.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times we may, I don't know if you guys feel the same way,
Mm-hmm.
but especially in the worship ministry, feeling that sort of, what's the word that I'm looking for? Um, that, well, I mean, you could say responsibility to be there, because I know you guys especially have encountered many people that have come out and they're like, well, you know, I wish I was a musician. I wish I knew how to play. I wish I knew how to do that. You know, I'd love to be there. Um, and even sometimes they go out of their way to try to learn. They may take classes or etc. And it's not for them, you know. Um, and so you kind of feel that responsibility of attending to what you are giving, right? And feeling like because like in any church, bro, and I'm sure you guys encountered it as well. Not everybody has the same, like I said, ethic as we do, man. Not everybody has the same motivation or the passion, the strive, to want to be, not only be there and attend to it, but also, like you said, be better, like push yourself to want to be something better off for, for like you said, for pleasing God, because that's what we're doing, right? Like we're ministering using the gifts that God has given us. And I feel like, unfortunately, because of that, like, um, it's kind of put us in, I don't know about you guys, it's put me sometimes in situations where it's difficult to balance, only because, like you said, because of how we grew up, we feel that kind of like want to be there and want to attend to everything. Um, but then at the same time, at least like me, like I have two boys. For many of you guys that know me, I have a 6-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. You know, I'm married. I have a job. I have relationships. I have friendships. Like you have a lot. I have family. And for example, my kids are in Little League. They play baseball. And there's so much that's going on in my personal life that, as much as I wish I could be there, it's impossible to do so. But it's also, I feel it's super important to also be able to attend to those things, because when you, as much as I feel it's super important, like, don't get me wrong. I grew up, my dad, and if you talk to my dad right now, I'll bring him in here and he'll tell you, like, if I miss a service, man, he's the first one that's over here calling me like, hey, man, like, we had service on Tuesday or whatever it was. He's the first one that's, that's on my case, and thank God for that, thank God for our parents for always, watching out for us and whatnot. But, unfortunately, sometimes there's not enough time to be able to attend to certain things that we have to attend to. I've had it to where because of, and I know you guys now enough to know, like, we are multifunctional in the sense to where if somebody needs a sound guy, like, that's us. If somebody needs a musician, a piano player, that's us. If somebody needs a camera guy, that's us.
Yeah.
If someone needs help serving, on a special event, that's us. You know what I mean? So, and all those things, like, we're doing that, but there's also an importance in being able to say no, but also not necessarily feel guilty about it. And I say that because I know we want to be there, and when we say no, it's not because we don't want to be there, but it's because there are some things that we do need to attend to, like, personally speaking, right? And there's some people that have a hard time saying no, and unfortunately live with the consequences of dealing with, certain things in their personal life that a lot of times it kind of bleeds into your ministry life, because burnout a lot of times is real. Also, when you're not able to attend your personal life the way that you need to, you come sometimes so like with a weight on your shoulders where you can't even minister the way that, like, truly freely, the way that God maybe wants you to do. And I think there's a super powerful what's it called? There's a power in being able to say no, and not no because we're out here. Oh, I know because I'm gonna go out here to a party or whatever, or no because I just want to stay in and sleep in. Like, I'm not talking about that. But it's important to be able to do that. And
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, and that's something that I will say. Two things. One, when I was in a younger age and I was at the church that Nate and my parents are attending, was very difficult for us because three of us were basically the musicians that were there all the time. And if you cut all three of us, they were bare bones. They will have maybe one or two musicians. And not only that, but our pastor understanding that, hey, we need to take a quick break. We'll be back next weekend. Let's put it that way. Let's say it was just a weekend. We'll be back next weekend. It's very difficult for him to understand, because and this is why also even for pastors, it's very vital for them to take time off, because I know that they're 24/7. Even when we're not there, they're there because they're a phone call away if there's anything going on. So that's when I was like, I understand why you think that way, but we're not all carrying the same burden.
Right.
So, at the same time, like you said, you need to measure and know when your family needs you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then the issues start coming into the household. Your kids may have some type of, like, hey, my dad's never in my games or anything like that, and it hurts. I promise you. I mean, I know I don't have children, but I know it would hurt me to hear my son tell me I'm not there in his important moments of his life.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, those are the moments that we show not only to God but to our children how God's unconditional love is towards us.
Yeah.
And that's why for me it's like, if you don't have family time, if you don't take even a second to just enjoy what you have at home, it's very difficult for you to come here and be able to enjoy what you want to do here. Yeah. Because I promise you, I know you've probably seen me and I've probably seen you. There are certain days where it was just it's been a rough day.
Yeah.
We come here, we may just feel like, hey, we're just gonna fulfill our duty and call it a day. And if we don't take that in consideration, be like, hey, if I have to go even more extreme and be like, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna be here the following service because I really just need to take some time by myself. Then you won't be able to have a healthy relationship with yourself, with your health, with your own health being, and being able to continue moving forward. And like you said, not burn out, because I've been there. I've burned myself out so many times, and it's so difficult to come out of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, And I think this is the worst part in the Christian life, or when we have so many things that we have to take charge of. It's like we're burnt out, and everything is still in our table.
Yeah. And everything keeps moving.
And
Like, it doesn't
yeah.
stop. You know what I mean?
So you're like, shoot, like I don't even have a moment to even try to regenerate or recharge my battery to be able to continue moving forward. You just be like, I have to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And that is why I always said it's so vital to have a team, or even just a certain person that you can always count on. And the thing for me was, we always did it as a family, right? So that's why for me it's like, when Nate now says, I'm very worried that I don't want to go to this vacation because there's no one going to be at church. For me, it's like, I've burned myself out so many times at this point. If we got to sing a cappella for a weekend, we sing a cappella for a weekend.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, it just works that way. Because if we were robots, they could have us there and be there forever. But we're not. We're human beings. And even with age, our bodies start deteriorating.
Yeah.
Our what we could have done 5 years ago is not the same. That
Our hands start cramping up. You
Exactly.
know, you start getting blisters
Yeah,
real
bro,
bad and everything.
after so many hours of practicing, so many hours of playing, you're like, dude, if it didn't come out, it didn't come out, man. We just keep moving on, you know. And that's my thing, and that's what's so important. And I give thanks to the Lord, because I learned this a couple of years ago. It's just so important to take those moments to recharge in those moments of time. And again, like you said, don't get me wrong. Be here 100%.
Yeah.
Be here when you can. If there is no excuse that you can put to not to be here, that always should be engraved in our heads. But at the same time, you know more than anybody else when you need to take a quick pause. It's like you said at the beginning. I mean, even the Lord come and tell us, take a breather, rest, take a moment. But He doesn't tell you just to stay there. Yeah. He tells you to continue on and moving forward after that. But yes, do take a small little take a.
Yeah. No, and my thing, like, a huge thing for me, especially again, and I give you guys like my perspective, because of, you know, our personal lives are, you know, are different, you know. But having kids, the biggest thing that I saw growing up, and the biggest thing that I heard growing up, was seeing people. As kids, you would see people that were leaders in the church, or that were in charge, you know, of certain areas, whatever it was. And you would think, like, I mean, they're an example, you know, they're a great example, and all this stuff, and they're someone to admire. And not to say they weren't, but I would have conversations with their kids, and with, you know, people that I'm friends of mine, you know, and whatnot. And unfortunately, a lot of times, what you kind of grow up and analyze is that, unfortunately, there were some people. I'm not saying there's all people, right? Like, not there are people that do a good job balancing, but they would not have a real relationship with their children. You know, and who knows, you know, in their spouse relationships or whatever it was, what that was like. And my thing that like you said is, as a father and as a husband, what good is it for me to be out there, you know, being able to preach on a weekly basis, being able to be a leader with the youth, or with the English ministry, or being able to preach, or being able to play in every service and do all this? What good is that if my home is not necessarily like, what are my relationships like? Like, what kind of person am I outside of these things? Like, 100%. Like, we were called to do something. We have a purpose within the church. We are leaders. We are musicians. We are people that have been called to something. But that's not all we are. You know, like, we're fathers, we're brothers, we're sons. You know, we're friends. We are people that, there's people that need us as well outside. You know, like, that need attention, that need dedication and commitment to them as well. You know, and for me, I would hate it, you know, if I kind of, you know, my kids grew up and say, yeah, you know, my dad is all this, but, you know, what, I don't know, he can't, like you said, maybe he's not present in my life, you know, he's not involved in my life and whatnot. And that's huge for me, because that, like I said, for me, as a person that I want to do God's will, and I feel like I'm doing a better job now of managing it, you know, as a 28-year-old, which is crazy thinking about how I'm 21 years in ministry now, And I feel like just now I'm doing a much better job of balancing, which is kind of, the way that I kind of look at it retrospectively. Like, hindsight is 2020, right? But it takes a while to be able to realize these things, because how I view it now is different from how I viewed it 5 years ago, from how I viewed it 10 years ago. Like I've told you before, like I've been in those moments in my life where, I mean, and this is not an exaggeration, I'm in church 7 days a week for hours at a time. Whether there were services or not, there were other things that we needed to do, whether it was practices, whether it was, clean up on the altar, whatever it was. There came a time in my life where I was here like on a daily basis, and I had a family and I had other things that I needed to tend to, and but I couldn't manage it. I had a very, I feel like, with it, like, from my own opinion, I had a very wrong understanding of what it was to serve in ministry. And I know God is working to me. I know God is helping me, and I've had to really rely on Him to guide me a bit, especially in the time where there's a lot of change going on. But it's a work in progress, and it's, but those days that we were there, it kind of helped analyze personal lives, and knowing, like, like you said, I want to be able to give my 120% when I'm here and for what I was called to do. But I also want God to help me in the other areas of my life that need attention and need, all these things to be taken care of.
Yeah. And I think, the topic right now is rest, right? It's really important. I mean, the Bible says we're the temple of God. And that means we need to take care of ourselves, take care of our body. Like you said, love ourselves, respect ourselves, know what our body needs when it needs rest.
Yeah.
It's good to be in church. It's good to worship God, but there's times where we must take rest. Like, it's a need. It's how our body functions, right?
Yeah.
It's like after a long day of work, you need rest. You need to sleep. That same way for church. I mean, in a sense, church is kind of like a job for us. And in a ministry, worshiping, we need to be there all the time to play an instrument or to help out. But we also need those times of rest. And when you were talking right now about 7 days a week at church, it brought up an experience that I just had right now. We had an anniversary, and during that time, what we like to do is practice throughout the week. We have church services Wednesday and Friday, so we would practice Tuesday and Thursday, which would only leave Monday as a rest day for us. And we go play soccer Monday, so we do something too that day. So it was every day for almost a month. I was doing something, and it gets tiring. And it really does. It was really tiring, and more that I have to do tracks. I have to help other people with the notes that they needed. I have to do this and that. So it's really tiring, rewarding, but you need to take your rest. And I'm grateful that it's done now, because I'm able to rest now.
Able to move on.
Yeah.
No, and then I think us more at the leader role, we're obligated to take more time, more of us to be able to be a successful leader to our members, to our people that are in our group. Because, I mean, start thinking about it, Eric. We're here Tuesday, we're here Thursday, we're here Friday, we're here Sunday, and possibly sometimes Saturday, because we have to do these recordings.
We're here Saturday. It's Saturday, guys. Yeah, you guys are seeing this on Monday, but
so it's like, okay, that means we have 2 other days, which, again, like Nate said, Mondays we usually go play soccer, and then Tuesdays, or Wednesdays. Sometimes you have something with the boys, or sometimes you're like, hey, this is the only day I got off, so I gotta take care of something.
Yeah, we have prayer too here.
We have
have
youth prayer every other weekend that I tried my best to be here too. So it's like we're juggling so much in such a little time frame, that if we don't dedicate, or we don't see future in what we're doing, we're going to cut means or tie or break it in at some point, because we're like, we're not seeing any future or any progression, or we're not seeing anything getting better, if we put it that way, from what we're doing. And if there's something that we always have to understand, is that in our ministry there will be moments where we will have to be stagnant, where we're like literally like, just God is like, hey, be patient, because the door is about to open. But you have to wait. But even in that time of waiting, we're still acting upon what our ministry has always been called for. Because for me, kind of in the in the beginning of high school and in the beginning of college, those were, I want to say, my prime time. I'm going out, I'm playing in different churches, this and that. Meet a lot of people, play for a lot of people, enjoyed everything that I had and during that time. But at the same time, when all that just kind of like closed down, then you're back to normal. So even with God, it's like I'm gonna give you seasons where you're like almost 24/7. But after the season comes, there's a time for you to enjoy and relax because He even knew that we needed it. And even in that, and the thing is, it's very important for us to know that even in that moment of rest, that doesn't mean we don't seek Him.
Right.
That we don't read our Bibles if that's something that we love to do.
It might be the opposite. Actually, you got to take time to refresh.
That's where He's like, hey, I want you to go one-on-one with me again, for me to be able to show you where I want to lead you again. So that's why for me, it's like, yes, it's very, very vital for us to take a rest, but it's also very important what we do during our resting time, because we could just do nonsense and like screw ourselves up even more than where we're at just because we weren't managing our time off correctly. I mean, and that's not saying that if you take a vacation, let's say you go anywhere, right, to not enjoy that, but even over there, what are you doing? Like, what's the purpose? Because I think everything that we do here in Earth always has some type of underlying meaning or underlying purpose of everything. So that's why for me it's very vital for us to always be careful how we take our time and when do we take it and who we take it with. And that's why for me it's like I've always told Alex, and shout out to Alex for always being here with us. You know, he's not in camera, but he's always here. I always tell him, I do my best to understand Eric because he first of all has kids and he also now has a wife. So he's juggling that at home and then has to still do something like this. You know, it's gonna take a little bit more out of him than me. I'm at home, I don't know, doing whatever the heck I'm doing. and Eric can text me at 5:00, hey bro, can we record today? Let's do it, you know, because I'm able to maneuver that. But at some point, we'll both be in the same boat. Yeah. So then we're like, all right, we have to establish something. We have to establish something else. But that's why for me, it's like it's always important to also be very careful with the people around you, because just like you don't want to burn yourself out, don't want to burn them out either. And I think we've learned it a lot right now in our ministry with a lot of people. Just understanding how they work or how they function and what works with them, because they're all so different. And that's the difficult part sometimes for us as leaders. Each member is so different.
It's a different world.
You're like, you're so happy when one of them says yes, because you're like, man, it's been like 3 months. You
feel like a relief. You're like, thank God.
You know, but at the same time, you're like, you learn and adapt to them too, because that's what a good leader has to do sometimes too.
Yeah. No, and ultimately, I think the best way to kind of, you know, summarize or kind of conclude, you know, the conversation, I like this verse of Ecclesiastes 3:1 that says, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. You know, it's always important to remember that, you know, because, you know, I thank God for my mom. You know, she's always been a great help. She's always been giving me advice, you know, and that's one thing that she's always told me, you know. And I thank God for having, you know, a mom and even my dad as well, you know, even though it's kind of, you know, it's taken him some time, but to understand that everything that we do here on earth, like there's a time for everything, you know, like there's a time for family, there's a time for friendships, there's a time for ministry, there's a time for ourselves as well, you know, and it's important to note that God's timing in everything, it's woven just in every part of our life. And whatever season we're in, you know, because again, you know, I may have been in your position, you know, I'm not gonna say how many years ago, but it was a while ago, you know, maybe Marvyn as well, you know, and ultimately, like he said, you guys will hopefully, you know, one day be in my position, you know, and I'm gonna be maybe a little more freer, you know, I'm gonna have older kids, you know, I'm gonna have a little more establishment, you know, within my life, but it's important to remember that is that in everything, like God is gonna give us the time to attend to what we need to attend, you know, and that's a beautiful thing to know, you know, because we don't have to stress about not having time. And I feel like a lot of times in my life, like that's one thing that I always like was very anxious about is like, am I going to have time for this? Am I going to have time for that? Like I need to do this. I need to do that. And just being able to kind of take it easy and say, okay, God, like the time is there. I can take care of what I need to take care of. Kind of give myself a little bit at ease. And I think it's important, to just remember that and understand it in every aspect of our life. And I think if we kind of take a step back sometimes and remember that, I think God will help us with everything.
Any last remarks, Nate?
I had a thought in my mind, but it kind of went away after we started talking about this verse. So not at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. I think my last thing I want to say is that a lot of people during my ministry has always told me, dude, you're taking too much in, you're going to burn out. And when you really enjoy your ministry, there's not too much.
Yeah. There's
always something to do. I'm never going to tell you no, but there's not too much ever because you're just excited to see where we're going to get to.
Yeah.
And I think when it came to not only this podcast, but our English ministry, that's how we started. And I think we're still there. Where it's like, where is this going to lead us to? Where is the next point? Where is the next path? Where's our next walk? And I think without us really looking or visualizing it, we're working, and people are like, man, how these guys when do they even catch a break? But that's how we've been talking about. It's thanks to the Lord that He gives us that moment, or He even lets us know. Because sometimes we're so focused and entangled in what we're doing that we forget to take that break.
Yeah.
And God's like, you know what, man, I need you to.
Yeah.
Because if not, you will burn out. So it's super amazing, and it's always something that I will always tell people: enjoy your ministry, be excited for what's to come in your ministry, because those things will lead you to continue to push and continue to pursue what you're actually pursuing. Because we're like we said, we're always doing everything for God, so we give it our very, very best effort.
Yeah.
And the only way to continue doing that is if what we're doing is something that we actually love. Not only how we love God, but how we love just ourselves too. And that's why we have to continue moving forward together. And that's why I like any time that I have a moment to, even with Nate, I say, hey man, I appreciate you just helping me out, because they take a little bit of the toll away, those people around you. Pretty sure your wife does that for you, or your brothers, myself, whoever's around you that you know you can count on. Yeah. And that's why it's so amazing to do that.
No, for sure, bro. I mean, the two things, like you said, being able to love what you do and have a passion for it, but also God puts the right people around you to be able to work towards the purpose that He has for us. And like you said, and being surrounded with people that have the same mindset and that have the same passion, and that more than anything understand each other. I mean, that there's nothing more that we could ask for, so I appreciate you guys, being here, the time that you've taken, Nate, to finally show your face on here, man. I hope this is not the last time that you're here, and everything, but, thank you guys for the time and for the conversation.
And it's funny because he doesn't even show his faces in the lights for
he's in the darkest room, bro. Like, I know.
But we have some exciting news. We are getting to culminate our first season of podcasts. We have one more after this one, and it's actually going to be a very different,
special,
very special. And we won't say too much. That way, you guys can be excited just like us. But this is going to be our last time here for a little while.
Yeah.
And then we'll announce dates and stuff when our next season is going to come up. But just because we're done here doesn't mean that we're going to stop doing videos. Right. We have other exciting videos that we're going to be doing. Holidays are coming up. We're going to be having a lot of more group activities. And I'm really excited to do that. You're probably going to see Nate in some of them too. So just enjoy them as much as you can. So it's going to be exciting. But other than that, I think we're good, right?
I think we're all set.
All right.
I mean, we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be getting near the end of the first season of the Unseen Podcast. And as we start to wrap things up, we have one more episode left, and it's going to be a special one. We know the holidays are around. Thanksgiving's coming up, Christmas, New Year. So we got some special things in store for you guys. Although we won't be filming from this specific room, we have some awesome content that we have gonna come out soon. So please be on the lookout. We'll be announcing dates. We'll be announcing activities, events really, really soon. So we look forward for you guys tuning in.